guys, and welcome back into the Big Brother Season 2 episode reviews. We are now on to episode 8 of the review series. Having a lot of fun doing these. It's really interesting and exciting, and there's so many different words you could use to describe it, but going back and watching particularly these old seasons, it's honestly, it's more fun than I even imagined it would be. These old seasons are phenomenal in every way. And some of the early season casting, as I've said before, is so much different than what we get nowadays. And in a lot of ways, I think the show has evolved. But in some ways, the show has devolved. And casting is one of the major ways that it has devolved over time. This episode is very centered around the new HOH, Hardy, who gets a lot of the airtime in this particular episode. The episode starts out with Harding, what the fuck am I talking about here? Hardy, he's talking kind of about the way he's being viewed throughout the house. He's feeling like he's coming across to a lot of people as an idiot. He thinks there's lots of people viewing him as dumb and uneducated, and he's trying to figure out, is that due to his size, his build, his appearance? What is it that makes people feel that way about him? They show Boogie talking to, I believe, Will and Shannon, basically saying that they don't think he's smart enough to do the smart thing as HOH and put them on the block. So it's going to serve basically what he had just stated, that he is being viewed as dumb. It shows that there is people in the house that do believe he is dumb. Now, is he dumb? I don't think he's necessarily dumb, but I don't think he is as smart as he thinks he is. And I think from what we see in the show, I think in his real everyday life, not to do with Big Brother, but just in his normal day-to-day life, I think he's heard this before, because immediately after the segment where he talks about not understanding where this viewpoint on him comes, he goes on to try to use all these big words in his diary room sessions. So I just thought that was funny, that clearly that bothers him, because he is now trying to throw all these big words that, yes, they make sense, but they're not words that he's used in any of the past episodes, and they're really not that's not the wordage he uses later in the season, but he really does. You can see him in his diary rooms trying to come across as smart as he can. So I don't know if that's something he's faced in his real life, but I have a feeling it is. I gotta say though, Hardy, and this is something I've known, the first couple episodes you kind of pick up on it and you start to get the idea, but in this episode it really comes across to me, and that's that he is extremely fake, and nearly on the level of a Shannon, to be quite honest with you. He's just a lot more likable than she is. Then we have the first time where it became 100% clear to me that, look, this guy is 100% fake. And it's the Hardy and Bunky disagreement over basically how I've talked about in the past reviews, the food competitions, the guys versus girls. Well, the girls had been on slop, and Bunky, being the caring and compassionate person he is, kind of feels like, well, we have eaten well this last week, the girls haven't. Maybe it's good for us to allow the girls to win this next competition. Just to be fair, Bunky's basically saying, I don't want the girls to have to be on slop for back-to-back weeks. And Hardy, hearing that, he just flips out. Like, Hardy wants no part of being on slop. Obviously, he's a big, strong guy. But at the end of the day, Hardy just, literally, he loses it with him. And it's to the point where I think Bunky feels threatened that he may go up on the block just from this disagreement. But Hardy basically says that if it comes down to him not eating for a week or someone else not eating for a week, the other person's going to lose, And I find that interesting, that he's the guy, right, that cares about so many people. He's the guy that puts Chilltown members down for being not compassionate. So if they're not compassionate, where's the compassion here from Hardy? That's something I thought that was interesting. You really do get an idea of, this guy's fake. And also the fact that Hardy goes on to say, when it comes down to food, he's got to have his food. Other people, if someone's not going to be eating, it's not going to him, it's going to be the other people. Now, my question is, if he feels that way about the food situation, wouldn't he feel that way about the game situation? So he's the guy who in past episodes has said that all he wants to do is get rid of the Chilltown members, and then he's happy walking out. He's happy throwing the game to somebody else. At this point now, that's total bullshit. Total BS, 100%. He will have the same opinion about the game and about $500,000 that he does about food. So I think it's crazy to me that, particularly in these early seasons, you got people like a Hardy who view themselves as the good guy, view themselves as the good person, when in reality, they're no different than everyone else. it kind of annoys me. And if I was in the house, I would have absolutely hated him, especially if I was a member of like the Chilltown Alliance, and he's sitting there. Another interesting thing is Hardy's made comments about how if there's someone in the house that has their head above others or believes they're better than another person, he wants to be the one to knock them down. Well, Hardy's the same way. He definitely thinks he is a better person and a more compassionate person than he feels Shannon, Will, or Boogie are. And really, is he? He's not much different if you ask me. Will's not the one screaming at Bunky, "How dare you throw this competition? I need my food." He didn't say that. So I find Hardy to be just nearly about as unlikable as Shannon, at least at this moment. But Shannon, even with that being said, Shannon absolutely sucks. I hate Shannon. Can't wait for her to fucking leave. Then we have a moment where we get a little bit of strategy from Hardy, really the first time throughout the season. He tries to make a deal with Boogie. Basically, the deal was he wants to convince Boogie that he won't put him up, and that if he doesn't put him up, Boogie's got to agree to, in the future, say he wins HOH next week, he won't put Hardy up. Now, obviously, Boogie can read this situation because of the fact that Chilltown had discussed doing a similar thing prior. They kind of pick up on the fact that Boogie's like, look, Hardy's probably not going to put me up anyways. He just wants to get assurance from me that... So basically, he's trying to get a get-out-of-jail-free card in the following week if Boogie wins HOH. But he doesn't have to really do anything different because he's not planning on putting up Boogie to begin with. And the first good moment from Boogie, as I've discussed in past episodes, Boogie's made a lot of mistakes in this season. He's been wrong pretty much at every turn. But in this instance, he is right. He's able to pick up on the fact that Hardy's really not wanting to put him up. So he doesn't make the deal. And that's one thing you can say about Boogie for sure. And he does get better in later seasons. But Boogie from the very beginning in this season, all the way through his third and final season, he's a loyal guy. He always is loyal to someone, particularly Will. But in his last season, obviously, there's a different person he's loyal to. But Boogie's just a loyal guy. And that's something that you can't say about a lot of people in this game, especially when it comes to their own well-being. Boogie will do just about anything to remain loyal, including sabotage his own game, which this decision with Hardy, ultimately, he doesn't go up this week, and he was right about that, but it doesn't help him in the future. Then we have a food competition. It's actually a pretty entertaining competition. They're like, it's an interesting and like bizarre competition in terms of we've never seen it again, but like they're standing in the backyard and they have to catch these flying tennis balls that come flying over the roof of the building. And like you catch a certain amount, and then basically at the end of the competition, they all have a certain amount of balls they caught. They sit down at the table, and each ball has like a little note that says a certain food on the ball, and whatever the balls say, that's the food you get for the week. They get a lot of different stuff. Boogie caught a ton of balls, but all in all, it wasn't necessarily a great competition, but it was relatively entertaining. And it was a competition we haven't ever seen again, so I enjoyed it. I mean, it wasn't boys against girls. They were all working together in this one, which is something they haven't done through a lot of these competitions. Ultimately, at the end of the episode, we have Shannon Will get nominated, which is, I mean, obviously you've seen this pretty much every season of the show. At some point in time, typically the showmance gets nominated. In this season, it's relatively early. And of course, Shannon and Will handle it completely different. Shannon has an absolute meltdown. As Hardy's walking away, she calls him, what'd she say? She said it was the most cowardice thing she's ever seen, or whatever. She basically calls him a coward right in front of everybody. But of course, in typical Shannon fashion, she waits until Hardy is walking away from the table to say it. Hardy challenges her on it, which, I mean, I don't like Hardy. I don't like Shannon. But Hardy, I think, was right in this situation. He had every right to put him up on the block. And when she says that cowardly comment, Hardy asks, like, basically explain this to me. Why am I a coward? And she's like, her response is, well, we're the closest in the house. And he said, the closest to who? And she, like, the fact that they're close, what does that got to do with Hardy? So in that position, I think Hardy kept his composure really well, because I would have said, like, listen, you dumb fucking, I would have screamed at her. That's my problem. If I was in Big Brother, I think there's a lot of things I'd be good at, but when you're dealing with someone like her, it'd be hard to bite your tongue and keep your composure, and I think I would struggle with that. So yeah, Shannon, she sucks. She's on the block with Will. Will handles it fine. I mean, he's not happy about it and whatnot, but he just kind of sits there. He lets Shannon bury her own, dig her own grave, and he just kind of sits there. I mean, I think a lot of ways he expected it. she should have expected. So when you're expecting something like that, I don't understand why you would blow up. Like, I mean, I can understand, I guess, if you were surprised by it, how you might just freak out. But when you're sitting there and you know you're going on the block, I don't necessarily understand what the fuck was wrong with her. The last little thing I want to talk about is the fact that in this season 2, the first real season of Big Brother, there is no veto. It's the only season to not have a veto. Sorry, I fucking thought someone was sneaking in behind me. But, yeah, it's the one season that doesn't have a veto, which in a way does suck. It limits the amount of, there's less alternatives in terms of, there's less variables. Going into the week, these 2 people, one of those 2 is going home. There's nothing you can do to save yourself. And in this situation, no matter what, the showmance is over. Will or Shannon, one of them is going home. I mean, in a current season, for instance, Will could win the veto and use it on himself, and then someone else goes up on the block and maybe Shannon stays. But in this situation, the variables are they're limited. It's one of those 2 are going home. So I think that is one of the very, very few negatives to this early season. But all in all, I got to give the MVP to Hardy, who again I don't like, but in terms of this episode, it was so centered around him that it almost feels dumb saying the MVP of the episode was anyone else. Again, we haven't got goodwill yet. As once Shannon leaves, the episodes and the season as a whole will really pick up. Can't wait for that to happen. But yeah, this episode was average. It wasn't great. As I've said, I don't love Hardy, so the fact that he's so centered and focused on in this episode, I mean, automatically it's not going to be an episode I love. But I got to say, I am happy that the Will and Shannon bullshit storyline is going to end here soon. And when that ends, the season will really pick up. My entertainment, and my enjoyment of the season will definitely pick up. So, all in all, guys, that was the episode 8 review. Excited for episode 9. We'll see what happens. I don't know. I think Shannon and the Will eviction, one of them will go home. I believe it'll be episode 10. So I think we'll have to suffer through another Shannon episode here in episode 9. But thanks for checking in, guys. Comment, like, and subscribe below. Let me know what you think about the episode. Did you enjoy episode 8? Do you agree that Hardy is pretty much a complete fraud? And but thanks for checking in, guys. I'll be back soon enough for episode 9. And thanks, guys. I'm out.